It's not just sticker shock anymore. Painful pump prices aren't going away anytime soon.
Too damn high. It's ridiculous.
The national average is just pennies away from $5 a gallon, and in these 13 states, prices are soaring even higher. In Illinois, up 88 cents in just the last month.
I just wish they'd come back down. It's going to affect the summer.
At $6.37 a gallon in California, a family of four here is spending $600 a month or more on gas.
I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, and everyone needs to brace for that.
If I see it hit $6, that's it.
Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. Welcome to Veracity. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. The head of the International Energy Agency, Fatih Birol, recently gave a stark warning by stating that the worst is yet to come as the global energy crisis has not hit its peak. Furthermore, Birol also specifically declared that the countries in the northern hemisphere would suffer the most from energy crisis during the winter seasons, and Europe will be at the center of this crisis.
I believe it is just the beginning of the crisis we are seeing now. It may be with us for some time to come. But there is a putting money in the fossil fuels have a climate risk, but also, in my view, a serious business risk as well to make them standard investments.
Now, if we look at the countries located in the northern hemisphere, you would be surprised to know that all the major continents like Europe, Asia, North America, and more than 50% of Africa is located in this hemisphere. And the impact of the sudden historical energy crisis is massively going to affect the economy of all the countries. But also blaming Russia-Ukraine as one of the main factors of this crisis, Birol said, the world has never witnessed such a major energy crisis in terms of its depth and its complexity. We might not have seen the worst of it yet. This is affecting the entire world. And as a result, we see that the entire energy system is going through a crisis. Oil, natural gas, coal, and electricity prices, they are all going up off the roof. Surprisingly, despite being aware that America can bring down the energy prices by increasing its production capacity, Biden will soon be heading to Saudi Arabia to request for more oil, thus increasing our dependence on other countries than making America independent.
President Biden heading to Saudi Arabia this week to beg for oil, and he's trying to defend the trip. In an op-ed written by him or his team, the president tries to paint Saudi Arabia as an important, quote, strategic partner, even though a couple of years ago he calls the kingdom a pariah after the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi.
And what if during the winter season, Saudi Arabia, which also falls under the northern hemisphere, decides to cut down sufficient supply of oil to America? And let's not forget, the Sydney Energy Forum, where Birol issued this warning, was recently held to discuss how to reduce the dependency of countries like China and Russia. However, it seems Biden is focused on how to increase our dependence on other countries.
$33 to create campus safe spaces for students, $43,400 to improve museum tours using an anti-racist lens, $50,000 to offer equity, diversity, inclusion-focused STEM programming, pre-K through 12 students.
Would you believe it if I told you that only 10% of the massive $2 trillion COVID-19 relief package actually went into dealing with the pandemic issues? How about hearing it from the mouth of Senator Mike Braun, who recently discovered that Americans' hard-earned taxpayer money that Biden bundled into the form of American Rescue Plan was heavily misused for Democrats' personal objectives.
Brian, there is so much money slushing around in that $2 trillion bill. Only 10% of it went to COVID. We're going to see more and more of this over time. It's part of the inflation bomb. Now we're seeing how it's blowing up around the country.
Well, there is a lot more hiding behind the curtain that we are not able to see. Because according to Braun's in-depth discovery of the COVID-19 relief package, around $50,000, as an example, was given to the Rochester Museum and Science Center in New York so that it could organize a field trip for students to see an exhibit. And that exhibit was not even about how to deal with future pandemics. It was actually part of the Democrats' objective of spreading anti-racism education by removing racist artwork from a historic carousel. Now, $50,000 was only a glimpse of the misusing of taxpayers' money, because around $15 million was also spent from the COVID-19 relief package to support anti-racism programs. In October last year, the Institute of Museum and Library Services, IMLS, a federal agency handed over around $15.2 million from the COVID-19 relief package to the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and institutions spreading across 49 states. Why, you ask? To support the role of museums and libraries in recovering from the coronavirus pandemic. However, as per disclosure that were posted on the IMLS website, the agency seems to be more focused on promoting anti-racism agenda by providing grants to the institutions that help achieve this objective. And the Rochester Museum and Science Center in New York was one of them. Moreover, Mike Braun also discovered this agenda of promoting anti-racism programs is part of the Marxist Frankfurt School. Braun said, "Now we're seeing how it's blowing up around the country with stuff like this. It's no good. We have asked the federal government to tell us what is left unspent. There is so much money sloshing around in that $2 trillion and only 10% of it went to COVID."
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that the United States stands with its ally Philippines in the face of Chinese aggression in the region.
As the Chinese Communist Party's aggressive measures in the South China Sea are creating tensions in the eyes of the Philippines, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has now vowed to defend the Philippines. The commitment was made in pursuance of the 1951 U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty, in which both of the countries vowed to defend each other in case of an attack. Moreover, the Philippines also has a major non-NATO ally status with the United States, which further provides its benefits related to defense, trade, and security. But what exactly happened that recently forced Blinken to issue this alarming statement to the CCP? Well, the South China Sea is a potential trade route through which around $5 trillion of goods pass every year. The CCP began controlling efforts in this region by building artificial islands and deployment of maritime militia forces to keep other countries away. However, in 2016, the Philippines filed an arbitration suit against CCP in the International Court of Justice, which later declared that the CCP has no legal claim in the South China Sea. With no legal claims, the CCP still carried out its actions by denying the orders of the International Court. This in return created uncertain fear in the mind of neighboring countries, including the Philippines. According to a recent poll conducted in the Philippines, around 90% of the citizens argued that their government should increase defense capabilities to respond to the rising aggression from the CCP, which also reminds us of the citizens of Taiwan who also feel the same way. Blinken had this to say: "We call again on the People's Republic of China to abide by its obligations under international law and cease its provocative behavior. We also reaffirm that an armed attack on Philippine armed forces, public vessels, or aircraft in the South China Sea would invoke U.S. mutual defense commitments."
To protect the right of women to travel from a state that prohibits seeking the medical attention that she needs to a state to provide that care. To protect the woman's right to the FDA-approved, Federal Drug Administration-approved medication that's been available for over 20 years. The executive order provides safeguards to access care. It establishes a task force led by the White House Department and the Department of Human Services, focused specifically on using every federal tool available to protect access to reproductive health care.
Now that the Supreme Court has overturned Roe v. Wade, the Democrats' desire to continue the mass murdering of babies has proven to be extremely immoral and deranged, to say the least. President Joe Biden is now trying his best to continue the murdering of babies by supporting illegal immigrants getting abortions. According to a leaked memo from Tay Johnson, the Director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, has instructed ICE detention centers to ensure illegal migrants who are pregnant must not be denied the right to an abortion at the expense of taxpayers. The memo also directs the ICE detention centers to transfer illegal pregnant women to a state where abortion is still legal. In an attempt to give such an idea validity, Mr. Johnson defended his actions by stating in the memo, "The Supreme Court's recent decision in Dobbs v. Jackson's Women's Health Organization, which overturned Roe v. Wade and returned the abortion issue to the states. This memorandum serves as a reminder of existing ICE policies that standards requiring that pregnant individuals detained in ICE immigration custody have access to full reproductive health care. This is also a reminder that pursuant to existing ICE policy, it may be necessary to transfer a detained pregnant individual within an area of responsibility, AOR, or to another AOR when appropriate, and in order to ensure such access. Now, as per the current ICE policy, the agency provides abortion to migrant women who are pregnant because of rape, incest, or suffering from a medical emergency. But citing the Supreme Court decision in the memo by the ICE director leads to an intentional promotion or advertisement towards influencing women to conduct abortions. And to add to all this, Biden on Friday also issued an executive order which further led to an excessive level of propaganda to get abortions. In that order, he said, expand access to abortion pills, protect the right of women to travel from pro-life states to pro-choice states if they want an abortion. Do you believe that men can get pregnant? Well, we all know what the answer is, but because of this unreasonable question, a war of words was witnessed during the recent Senate Judiciary Committee hearing between the Republicans and a University of California law professor, Kiara Bridges. The hearing was conducted regarding the consequences of the Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization case that handed over the abortion rights issue to the states. However, the discussion, which could have been conducted in a reasonable and acceptable manner, was immediately turned upside down by the level of unacceptable behavior of the professor. At first, Senator John Cornyn simply asked the professor whether a baby that has not yet been born has value or not. Here, I want you to take a look at her response.
Do you think that a baby that is not yet born has value?
I believe that a person with a capacity for pregnancy has value. They have intelligence, they have agency, they have
dignity. I'm talking about the baby.
And I'm talking about the person with the capacity for pregnancy.
You're not answering the question. I'm asking.
I'm answering a more interesting question to me.
You think that a baby that is not yet born, let's say the day before this mother delivers, do you think that baby has value?
I think that the person with the capacity for pregnancy has value, and they should have the ability to control what happens to their lives.
Well, and I just note you refuse to answer the question.
Now, this was only a glimpse of her conversational behavior. Please take a look at how she responded to Senator Josh Hawley when he asked this simple question.
Professor Bridges, you said several times, you've used a phrase, I want to make sure I understand what you mean by it. You've referred to people with a capacity for pregnancy. Would that be women?
Many women, cis women, have the capacity for pregnancy. Many cis women do not have the capacity for pregnancy. There are also trans men who are capable of pregnancy, as well as non-binary people who are capable of pregnancy.
So this isn't really a women's rights issue.
We can recognize that this impacts women while also recognizing that it impacts other groups. Those things are not mutually exclusive, Senator Hawley.
Oh, so your view is that the core of this right then is about what?
So I want to recognize that your line of questioning is transphobic, and it opens up trans people to violence by not recognizing them.
Wow, you're saying that I'm opening up people to violence by asking whether or not women are the folks who can have pregnancies?
So I want to note that 1 out of 5 transgender persons have attempted suicide. So I think it's important
because of my line of questioning? So we can't talk about it?
Because denying that trans people exist and pretending not to know that they exist.
I'm denying that trans people exist by asking you if you're talking about women having pregnancies?
Do you believe that men can get pregnant?
No, I don't think women can get
So
pregnant.
you are denying that trans people exist?
And that leads to violence? Is this how you run your classroom? Are students allowed to question you?
Absolutely.
Or are they also treated like this? Or
No,
they're told that they're opening up people to violence?
We have a good time in my class. You should join.
I bet.
You might learn a lot.
Wow, I would learn a lot. I've learned a lot in this exchange.
Absolutely.
Extraordinary.
Yep.
Thank you all for spending time with me. Now, don't forget to watch this video right up here and join me tomorrow at the same time, and we'll discuss more truths happening in America. Have a good evening, and I'll see you next time.